Hey guys, and welcome to Crazy Burger. So it's Indie Heroes Collection 2, it's new cart time. Is it as good as the first collection? Will you actually want to buy it after completing or playing all the games via Indie Heroes Game of the Month on your Evercade VS? Who knows? Let's find out. Okay guys, let's have a look at Indie Heroes Collection 2. Now this for me is what Evercade should be all about, giving the indie sort of makers and developers a space and a platform to put all their games on. Unfortunately they don't always get it right, and some of the games are not the best quality and some of them can be a little bit short. But even in saying that, I thought the Indie Heroes Collection 1 was absolutely brilliant. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, some of the games were a bit short, but there were some excellent games here. Is this one the same? Let's have a look. I think there's a mixed selection here. Some really good ones, some sort of average ones, and some really sort of a couple of poor ones that are not great. But anyway, I'll go into that in more detail through the video and play the games, and I'll let you know my thoughts. Anyway, let's have a look at the cart. Really lovely looking cart. Let's try and focus. Lovely cart, I love it. Cart number 28. Nice cover. A quick sort of look. Indie Heroes Collection 2 and all the details of all the sort of creators of all these games. There's quite a lot of pages here regarding that. I think the start of the cart is definitely this one from Low-Tech Games. Obviously they made Flea as well. This is Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. This is the most outstanding game on this collection by far. There's quite a few other ones, quite interesting. Some so-so, some RPGs. I think the worrying thing about these games really is that they are quite short. Now these games here, the Gruniozerca sort of games, this is Cowlitz gamers, Gruniozerca games, they were not part of the Game of the Month, so most people probably haven't heard of these or even played them. And also there was Beer Tapper as well, which wasn't included in the Game of the Month, but I think I've had a quick bash at some of these and they're actually quite good. This one's really good as well, Eyra the Crow Maiden. This is the Mega Drive game that's on here. And that one's pretty decent as well. I think that one's probably my second favourite after Tapeworm. Then we've got this Beer Slinger, which is pretty much like Tapper, which is basically just deliver all the beer that people are asking for. Pretty simple game really. We've got Anguna, it's basically like a demake for the NES. We've got the Game Boy Advance version already. Lunar Journey, that's a kind of Game Boy game which is good fun but short. We got John Riggs' game, Yeah BeeBiss, which is garbage. Sorry, John. Gelatinous, it looks quite nice, but it's kind of flawed if you ask me. Anyway, let's move on. We got Nyx the Paradox Relic. Forgot about that one. That one was not included as Game of the Month, and that's kind of quite cool. It's quite rough around the edges, but it's certainly worth a playthrough. I think people might quite like this one. And that's it. So what we'll do is have a quick look at some of the games on the EXP, and then we'll probably put it onto the VS. Will this fit onto the EXP without any problems? Yeah, no problems. There's a lovely click. And here we have it. 12 games. This is quite cool. Now the thing is, have you played all these on the VS? If you have and you've maybe completed them, do you really want to buy this cart? See, I'm not so sure. There's some really good games here. Maybe you want to replay them and do it again. Thus, it's probably worth getting. But I don't know. Let's have a look through them. I don't want to be too negative as yet. I think there's some good games here, but some really iffy ones. But is it good value altogether? Let's have a look and see. Okay, so here we go. Gruniozerca Trilogy. The first game's a bit basic, to be honest. We'll kind of just jump to the sort of second one, and we'll have a bash at it before we put it onto the VS. You can get a better look as such. Now these are kind of a puzzle game, so if you don't really like your puzzle games, you're probably not going to enjoy this one too much. Let's have a look. Well, you need to sort of build blocks, that's what you... yeah. So what have I got? How the heck do I do this again? So I've got one little block I can build, and then you press the A button to build a block there, and then jump on top of it, click the carrot, get to the exit, done. Pretty straightforward stuff. Pretty good. I quite like this idea. It's a little bit tricky, fiddly I guess with the controls, but once you get used to it I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyway guys, let's look at these games in more detail on the Evercade VS. Okay, here we have the 12 games on Indie Heroes Collection 2 on the VS. There is probably a few more games than 12 if you include the games in the Trilogy sort of series games. But anyway, let's start with Anguna, Scourge of the Goblin King, a kind of a RPG. It's a demake basically of the Game Boy Advance game we have on Indie Heroes Collection 1. It's pretty straightforward. I don't really think there was any need for this game. I actually didn't realise this was a demake. I thought this was a new game all in its own, but it's pretty much a very similar game to the one we have in Indie Heroes Collection 1. It's not completely the same, it's got some subtle differences here and there, but it is more or less the same game, and yet you're basically trying to kill the evil Goblin King. You've been captured, you're stuck in a cell, you need to escape by killing the monsters, and magically the gate will open up as they normally do when you kill monsters. Yeah. Anyway, it's actually an okay game. It's alright. It's a little bit glitchy here and there. It's very typical NES style game. It's okay. It's not amazing. But there's plenty of depth to it, I guess. You keep going. There's a map as well that will help you on your way. There's no pinpoints on the map to where you need to go, unfortunately. It's much like the Game Boy Advance game. You really are just left to your own devices, so you need to explore. It will become obvious when you get to some stages that you can't quite really make a lot of progress, so I would come out and go and explore somewhere else, and look for lots of mysterious walls. If you look at all the walls, there's some sort of hidden passageways as well that you can access to get to these hidden areas that you see here. So keep your eyes open. There's definitely a lot of hidden walls here and there, because some of these upgrades are quite important to make progress through the game. But it's not amazing, but it's okay. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, if you press, I think, start or select, you bring up this map of sorts, and there's some information here. Just beware here that the game save and enemy list is round the other way on the Evercade. A is actually the enemy list and B is actually save game, so that's round the other way on Evercade. Okay, moving on to game number 2, which is Beer Slinger, which is pretty much like Tapper. You're basically taking orders and delivering the beer in a timely fashion. You've got 3 lives. If you sort of fail 3 times, it's game over, and you basically keep going. It starts off pretty simple, and it's a very basic game, really quite simple. This game is probably one of these ones that would be ideal for maybe like a high score chase or something, and see how far you can actually go. Pretty simple. You just basically listen to the customer orders that they ask for. They ask for, I think it's 3 or 4 different types of beer, and you've got a target each day to actually reach. Obviously you see behind you, the customers will come up to the bar and order, and you just basically choose it and then deliver it to them, and that's it. And you can see obviously there's a little sort of timer going round. If you don't deliver it in that time, you will miss a turn or miss a customer, so to speak. And then obviously once you reach the cash target, it will move on to the next day, and then it gets absolutely crazy. They get more customers, they come quicker, you get more selections as well. It becomes quite furious. This game's actually alright, and again, this wasn't included in Game of the Month, so a lot of people probably haven't played this yet. It's not bad at all. So this game definitely picks up the pace a bit, and you get to a point where you actually start to get completely confused, and there's no doubt that I could not be a bartender. There's no way I could handle that at all if it was like that. But one thing I wanted to jump in here and mention was the actual sounds. The sounds are actually quite quiet. And more so on the Evercade EXP. At the time of this video, we haven't had another firmware update, and I felt that the sounds were really quiet, and I couldn't turn the volume up enough, and I thought at times it was a struggle to hear what the customers were actually ordering. Hopefully that'll get fixed, but I'm just saying it is very quiet on the EXP to hear the customers. Okay, moving on to the Cowlitz Gamers Adventure Trilogy. Yep, there's 3 games in this one. It's only counted as one. It's a sort of 3 games in one, so to speak. And yeah, they're pretty basic. They're all kind of similar. The first one's the most basic of the 3, and the second and third ones are kind of similar. But there's a good point there here to actually switch between the games. Just press start and then go to the reset function, and it'll go back to the main menu for this series of games. Otherwise you can just quit and go back in again, but it is quicker just to press the reset button to access the games that you will see here. So yeah, we're going to start and play through the first game first. It is pretty basic. You can change the actual theme on the screen there, but at times I felt that the graphics are pretty basic, and later in the levels there's so much going on that I couldn't actually see my main character and see where I was. It took me maybe a few seconds to realise where my character was, but anyway, it's just me. But it's not bad, it's okay. It does get pretty difficult, and I felt, yeah, I struggled. I definitely had to use the save states. You can see here the save states are the same for all the games, so you've got 6 slots, but that's shared within all 3 games in the actual series. And I felt this game is a struggle. It really is. You're going to have to utilise those save states or keep going back to the start time and time again. This wasn't my favourite of the trilogy, more so because I thought it looked really quite basic, and it was pretty difficult at the time. I definitely kept dying over and over again. I got a little bit frustrated with it. Here's the reset function, which basically just takes you back to the menu, and this is the second game. This is a little bit better. It's basically more of the same. You're just at a single screen game where you're sort of collecting whatever it is. It's basically gold you need to collect to get to the exit that appears at the top of the screen once you've collected the gold. This one's definitely a lot better. See, graphically it's much improved over the first sort of game, and there's a lot more going on, but it's basically the same idea. You're basically collecting gold pieces and making your way through the sort of single stages. It's alright, I guess. I'll probably play this a little bit more. You see you got the hidden diamonds as well that appear in certain circumstances as well throughout the sort of stages. But this isn't bad at all. This was okay. It does get a little bit frustrating here and there, but the second and third ones are definitely an improvement over the original. say this is definitely the star, or one of the stars of the cart. Eyra the Crow Maiden, which is a kind of a platformer rescue style game. Now this is the 16-bit version, the Mega Drive game, or Genesis, wherever you're coming from. There is actually a NES version of this as well, so thankfully Blaze decided to go for the superior Mega Drive version in this occasion. And there's a sort of control layout. I'll talk about that in a little minute. There's obviously 3 buttons, as it being a Mega Drive game. And this is actually really, really good. Very high quality. It's got a great music soundtrack to it as well. Absolutely brilliant. From Second Dimension again. They obviously made the other game, Beer Slinger, that's on the cart as well. There's a few other games that they did too, which was on a Steam collection that I had recently. But yeah, this one is definitely high quality. I'd say, other than Tapeworm, this is definitely one of the best games on the cart for me. Pretty simple stuff. You're basically going through the levels, rescuing these barbarian soldiers that are doing something strange throughout the game anyway. We'll talk about that as we go through. It's high quality, it's really, really quite cool. The graphics are lovely, the music is fantastic. The gameplay is really good. It does get a little bit frustrating occasionally, so you are going to have to utilise the save states. And I just wanted to talk about the control layout. The default one here that Blaze had, the jump, and I just felt this layout was terrible. I like to have my jump button as A or B and have that B as attack. It just felt different, and have the crow attack way up out the way as Y. I just felt I kept pressing the crow attack far too often. Basically you press the crow attack and the crow will go and attack the enemy for you. The crows that you see through the level here, they don't actually harm you. But you can actually harm them, and you basically drop a pickup of some sort, which you can then help strengthen your sword eventually. Now every hit you take, it will lessen the strength of your sword for some bizarre reason, so just be careful and not get hit. And as you can see at the top there, one of the soldiers is doing something really naughty, pretending to be captured, or I don't know, tied up on whatever that is up there. But yeah, it does look really bizarre, but otherwise it's a brilliant game. You can see we've got 6 barbarian soldiers to collect or save from whatever the heck they're doing throughout this level, and then you eventually, after a few stages, you hit a boss level as well. It's a great little game. I really enjoy this one. It's brilliant fun. Okay, so on to one of the duds, in my opinion, on this cart. Gelatinous Humanity Lost, which is obviously from John Rue, who made Quest Rest, which is quite a different game. It's on Indie Heroes Collection 1, which actually was quite a good game. I quite enjoyed Quest Rest, even though it had a couple of bugs here and there, but otherwise it was a good game. But this one, Gelatinous Humanity Lost, is a very different game. It's still on my VS, as you can see here, as Game of the Month from December. The firmware still hasn't been updated to remove it. So anyway, here's Gelatinous Humanity Lost. Just ignore this loading screen. That's just nonsense. Just press the B button and go past it. And you can see here, this is obviously Game Boy. I'm just wondering if there's actually other sort of filters we could put on the Game Boy versions by selection, maybe like having a blue screen or some other white screen, anything other than a green screen. But it starts off here, basically I don't know, you're some kid. It looks like some kind of archaeologist. You've stole this gem, which then suddenly turns you into this big pile of gelatinous goo mess thing, and then you sort of obviously go down the sewers, and then you need to escape somehow. And this is how the game starts off. But yeah, just beware, the game starts off, you don't have anything, you don't have jump or fire, you can't do anything apart from move and sort of work your way around the walls. And immediately I went the wrong way in this game, which I couldn't remember how to do it. And the collision detection in the game is absolutely shocking. You can see here it's not even touching the wall. You're like, come on, really? And then all of a sudden you're up onto the next level. There's so many daft, silly errors and buggy things in this game that it's just laughable. I think the idea of this game, it's got great concept, it's got a good idea. However, the way it's been put together, it's not been implemented well at all. I think this game would definitely recommend it to have a couple more months of tweaks to make it a better game, rather than the kind of a buggy mess that it actually is. And at times it does get confusing where you're going. There's no obvious route, and you sometimes end up going round in circles till you actually figure out where you're going through the game. But yeah, I just think this is a mess. It really isn't great. And apologies if you actually like this game. Apologies. This is just my opinion at the end of the day. I just think it's messy. It's quite poor. I think this is one of the poorer games on this cart by a long way, and there's a lot of unnecessary deaths as well, and a lot of frustrations, so you will probably have to utilise the sort of save states unless you want to keep dying and going back to the checkpoints which are through the game. But this game just frustrates me, not for being too difficult, just for being a poorly coded game. I think it really needs a few more months of development for me to make it a slightly more enjoyable game. You can see, you get to the save point, and in this occasion you somehow miraculously get this power up which you can then jump, and I think things definitely improve a little bit when you get the jump facility. It sort of takes a little bit of frustration out of the game, and then yeah, you can see there's still a lot of flaws in the game. You're going to have a heck of a lot of patience to actually get through this and enjoy it. It's amazing to me that this game was actually being sold for $50 if you wanted a physical copy. So maybe we should think ourselves really fortunate that we're getting this on an Evercade cart for a reasonable price. You can see here there's a lot of deaths, you will die tons, you'll get confused, you won't have a clue where you're going, and yeah, you'll get frustrated at the silly buggy nonsense that the game is. Anyway, not my favourite. Again, let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of this game. I think this one is terrible, and it might even sort of be up there with some of the worst games on Evercade. Who knows, I might have to update my worst games video at some point. But yeah, once you get to certain save points through the game, you get some more power-ups, and you also get one where you can actually lash out with some kind of mysterious hand that can help you sort of destroy the enemies. But anyway, it's just rubbish. I just don't like this game one bit. Okay, moving on to Lunar Journey from Game Boy Games. It's another Game Boy game, and it's a kind of a adventure come RPG game which felt like Dizzy in Space to me. You've got 6 elements that you need to collect to finish the game. It is a very short game, right enough, but it's a good game. There's no doubt it's a really high quality game. There's been a lot of effort put into this. You can see it's very cool. I found it quite relaxing to actually play through. It's very simple to pick up. Again, all you're doing is really trying to solve puzzles, going through the sort of levels, speaking to the characters, and just collecting items and going from A to B. And remember, there is an oxygen level on this, but I never really found it an issue. You have to go back to your spaceship to sort of make sure your oxygen's back up to the maximum of 10, but it's never really an issue throughout the game. You can see it's a lovely looking game. Okay, it's a Game Boy game, but it's a really nice looking game, and there's lots of puzzles. You basically just try and press B button to read the items and get some hints and tips of what's going on and what you need to do. Some of the puzzles are pretty straightforward. Again, if you like your Dizzy games, and this is probably one of something you would really enjoy, because the puzzles are of that kind of nature. you're basically taking items from A to B and solving that kind of thing. It's good stuff. I really enjoy this game. It's quite relaxing. It is very short, right enough, but I couldn't really fault it other than being too short. But it's a very good, decent game that you'll finish within the hour. Okay, moving on to Nessy the Robot. That's what the original title was, but they obviously dropped the Ness. It's just Nessy the Robot, and it's made from, I think it's made from the NES Maker platform, which is obviously available for a lot of people to be able to just make your own games from. And you can probably tell the game is a little bit glitchy and buggy here and there. It's a really good game though. I mean, it's a decent enough game. It's a platform shooter style game. You're basically just going through the levels, getting to the end, defeating the bosses, and then eventually the whole game repeats itself in a slightly different fashion. Not sure what the point is of collecting these gems, to be honest, but yeah, it's okay. There's nothing special about it. There's a lot of kind of bugs and glitches throughout the game. It's definitely not one of the better games on the cart, but it's not terrible at the end of the day. It's just playable. You'll probably play it through once and then you'll never play it again, kind of thing. And it's one of the games that's really, really short as well. You'll probably have it completed within an hour or so. And again, you get to the bosses. They're not overly difficult, but just a bit glitchy and yeah, your typical sort of NES Maker style game. It reminded me a lot like Doodle World, except not as good. But it is what it is. It's not the worst game at all. Okay, moving on to one of the games that was not part of Game of the Month. This is Nyx the Paradox Relic, which is a kind of a it's kind of an adventure platformer shooter style game, and you're a bounty hunter trying to find the sort of pirates that are on the sort of levels. It's alright. It's a kind of a simple, straightforward enough game. It reminded me a little bit like some of the Kubo games that we sort of had. Not the third one, I think it was more or less the second one it reminded me a little bit of. This is from a couple of years ago, which I actually picked up as part of a package with Doodle World and Flea at the time, and it's actually alright. It's playable. Again, it's probably one of these games that's quite short and you'll finish it within an hour or so. But it's alright, I can't really fault it too much. It's not not perfect, it's not amazing. It's another sort of Ness sort of title, and it's fun enough to play. You'll probably play it through once again and maybe never really return to it, but it's certainly worth picking up and having a bash at it. It's not bad. Okay, moving on to Reknum Soul's Adventure from Nape Games. This is another NES game, which is a kind of a action adventure come RPG style game, and you are playing the light elf Cherie, who's lost her family. You're basically collecting keys and destroying bosses, that kind of nonsense, throughout the game. There's a simple button, jump and use your weapon, and you've got a selection of weapons which we'll go into in a little minute. Again, this is from Nape Games. They had a few games on the first Indie Heroes collection as well, and this one's alright. They've got, I think there's a few other Reknum games out there, which is like a platform Metrovania style game, but this one's kind of an RPG action adventure. Don't forget you've got a double jump by pressing B, and it's all about collecting keys in this game. As you can see at the top of the screen how many you've actually got. You can collect a few different weapons, you can press the select button to go through them. The sword is probably more powerful than the boomerang, however you're more likely to take hits from the enemies if you use the sword. I prefer to use the boomerang, because obviously then I can stand at a distance and just chuck it numerous times and destroy the enemies that way. But just word of warning, don't try and clear each screen of all the enemies. It's utterly pointless because the enemies just keep on appearing as soon as you come back again. They just respawn in. So don't spend your time trying to clear out the enemies. It doesn't serve any purpose at all. So throughout the game it does change sort of perspective, and you got this sort of Zelda-like music kicks in as well, which is kind of funny. So this part is obviously very much a little bit like the Zelda adventure, but then you get this sort of change in perspective and you've got a platform style again. So it's not bad, you know, it's okay. This is one of the games that I actually played quite a bit when it was Game of the Month. I didn't finish it deliberately so that I could probably play it again. Now it's been released as a cart, but yeah, it's not bad, it's worth playing through. Okay, on to arguably the best game on this collection, which is Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. I absolutely love this game. This was the first game that was released as Game of the Month back in the middle of last year. It's absolutely fantastic. It's 99 levels of a kind of a puzzle style game made by Low-Tech Games, who also made Flea from Indie Heroes Collection 1, which was also absolutely brilliant. So well done to Low-Tech Games. They're making some absolutely fantastic games, and this is very high quality. It's got a great soundtrack throughout the game as well. I have to mention that. It's a brilliant soundtrack. What a game this is. It starts off kind of laughably easy, to be honest, and there are stages throughout the game that are just so simple it's laughable, but there are a lot of stages that will absolutely test you to the limits. There are some stages that are really, really tricky, and you usually have to stand back and sort of look at the stage before you even get started to try and figure out what you need to do and in what order. But yeah, don't be too fooled by the original sort of stages here. Pretty simple, collecting the musical notes. You can come out of two sections of the tape depending on where the musical notes are, and just avoid the spikes, the enemies, or you will die. Quick note here is to press the B button. That will just hold it down, it will automatically pull the worm all the way back rather than pressing left and right to come back the way. It's easier just to hold the B button down and it will just do it for you basically. And level 9 here is probably when the game starts to change up a little bit and become a little bit more trickier, and you definitely have to think it through a little bit before you actually complete it and get to those musical notes. And as I said, there are a lot of levels that are just stupidly, laughably easy, but then you suddenly get this crazy level that kicks in that's just unbelievably difficult and frustrating. But overall, what an amazing game this is. I think it's brilliant. I've completed it as part of the Game of the Month. I just couldn't stop playing it. But again, now that it's on the cart, I'm going to pick up and I'm probably going to play it again on the handheld and just do it all over again, because I can't really remember some of the levels. There's that many of them, I can't remember all of them, but I really enjoyed it. I think actually it gets even better once you get to level 60 and 70. The sort of game still changes a little bit up it, and it sort of makes you think even more than you already have done. What a great game though, it's absolutely fantastic. I love this game, it's really, really good. Okay, just jumping in here to something I really don't like about the game is the levels that kick in every 20th level, I think it is, 20, 40, 60, 80, that kind of thing. I really hated these levels. These levels basically are reaction style levels. You need to press left and right at the right time to avoid dying or hitting the spikes. And it's unbelievably frustrating. Now this is the first one, which probably isn't too bad at all, but later in the levels it gets extremely frustrating, and you probably end up repeating the levels over and over again till you finally do it. And I definitely cursed quite a few times playing this level, despite the fact that I absolutely love this game. These levels that kicked in every 20th levels absolutely frustrated the heck out of me, and I probably swore quite a lot playing this, but once you complete it, it's quite satisfying obviously. But yeah, I hated these levels, but the game overall is brilliant apart from these stages. I didn't enjoy them one bit. Okay, this is Gruniozerca Trilogy. Obviously there's 3 games, all kind of a different style games as well, which is quite refreshing. And a lot of people will probably never have heard of this or never even played these games. These games were not part of the Game of the Month for some reason. I wish they really were, because they were actually really decent and quite good fun to play. But I guess it gives you something to look forward to on the cart. Is it worth picking up just for these games? Probably not, but they're still worth playing. If you do pick up the cart, you'll probably quite enjoy them. And it starts off, the first game is pretty basic, simple. You basically need to collect the carrots and press the B button to change the colour depending on what carrot is falling from the sky. You know, that happens quite a lot. Carrots fall from the sky, and the guinea pigs collect them by changing colours. Yeah, it's a daft idea, isn't it? But it kind of works. This is definitely one of these games that would be really good as a high score sort of chaser thing. I think this would be perfect if you're doing sort of high score challenges on Discord or on the Facebook groups, for example. This would be perfect for that sort of idea. I probably wouldn't be very good at it right enough. Anyway, moving on to Gruniozerca 2, and it changes the style of the game dramatically. You can see here, you're basically trying to get the key, get to the door, the exit, to escape whatever sort of happening here, and you've got sort of blocks you can build to help your way through the levels. You can see at the top of the screen how many blocks you've got. You basically press the A button and then you press B button to place it wherever you want throughout the sort of stage. And you've also got a hammer where you can destroy certain blocks as well as part of this sort of stage. You can see here we've got one single block at the top there, and you press the B button and then just use the D-pad to place it. Press B to place it where you would like it, and then jump. Collect the carrots as well as a little bonus, and then make your way to the exit. Now, one thing, I really enjoyed this game, however, one thing I want to comment is I thought the controls were extremely fiddly. This isn't really Blaze's fault, it's just how the game's actually been designed, but I felt it was fiddly. Okay, Gruniozerca 3. This is the third of the trilogy, and yeah, this one changes up the game style again, and it's very much like, a little bit like Roneo's Tale and Pyramids of Ra, which was the hidden game on, if you put two Pico collections into the VS, you would get that hidden game. It's very much like that. Basically the platforms disappear after you've moved away from them, and some of them have numbers on them, and you can probably just about see the 1 and 2s there on the platforms, meaning you have to step on that platform twice or 3 times before they disappear, and then you make your way to the exit. The exit will open up once the last block has disappeared. I really like this game. It's actually quite good fun. It gets quite frustrating, and there's quite a few levels here, as you can see, and it definitely means you have to think ahead a little bit on what you're doing, so you'll probably screw up a few times before you actually complete some of the levels. But I love it. It's my type of thing. I love this kind of puzzle game. Yeah, and it's a nice bit of variety to this trilogy as well. It's a decent trilogy. I just wish they'd actually included this as Game of the Month, because this would have been fun to play at the time. But nonetheless, now we're playing it on Indie Heroes Collection 2 on the cart, and I'm glad it's here. It's really decent. Right, moving on to the last game of the cart. If you've made it this far, congratulations, thanks for watching. So, this is Yeah BeeBiss 2, which is basically a sequel to a game that was never made. It's a kind of a crazy backstory to it. Then it's been picked up by John Riggs, who helped develop and make this game in collaboration with Megacat Studio. This was one of the latter games of the Game of the Month, and it's definitely not my favourite, so apologies to anyone that likes this game. I just think it's kind of rubbish, to be honest, but it's one of the, you'll probably play, I think it's probably ideal for a high score chaser as well. But you see, the graphics are kind of they're alright, they're not bad, but there's a lot of colour clashing here for me, and at times it's hard to tell where your character is, and later in some of the levels there's some spikes that appear that you just can't see, and you just walk over them and you lose a life. But the basic idea of the game is to clear the enemies within a time limit, and that's it. Basically it just keeps going, you get less time, more enemies, that kind of thing as you go, and it gets pretty dull pretty quickly. It's not the worst game in the world, it's worth playing once I guess, but it's not my favourite game by a long way. Okay, so that's every game played. What are my final thoughts on Indie Heroes Collection 2? Now, first off, I don't think it's as good as Indie Heroes Collection 1. I think the quality has went down slightly. There are a few games here that stick out, there's no doubt about it that Tapeworm and Eyra are the two standout games. There's other few decent games, like the Gruniozerca Trilogy is good, Lunar Journey's fun but short, Reknum's alright, Nex is alright, Nessy's okay-ish, Slinger's alright, but there's a few games that are pretty poor and probably won't enjoy as much, like Yeah BeeBiss and Gelatinous are probably not amazing games at all. But overall as a collection, it's actually okay. But the thing is, what I really want to discuss, if you've played this on the Evercade VS as part of Game of the Month, do you really want to pick this up? Did you complete all the games? If you did, you may want to think twice about picking this up. It might be worth picking up if you really enjoyed Tapeworm, to play it through again, maybe as a handheld game on the EXP or on the original sort of handheld. But overall, I'm not sure it's really worth picking up if you did complete all the games, because I'm not sure that you're going to want to go back to a lot of these games. Is it worth picking up for the games that were not on Game of the Month that you didn't play? Not entirely sure. There's not enough quality there to sort of warrant a purchase, I think. However, if you didn't play these games as part of the Game of the Month, then this is definitely for you. I would highly recommend picking it up, because you've never experienced a lot of these games. Pick up, they're absolutely worth playing. Some really good titles, a couple of good ones, a couple of iffy ones, but there's 2 outstanding titles like Tapeworm and Eyra. Anyway, that's my opinions, guys. Let me know what you think. So thanks very much for watching, guys, and look out for a future video. I am going to be giving away this cart probably sometime in the next week. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.